Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The Dallas Cowboys are promoting from within, making Brian Schottenheimer their new head coach. He was the offensive coordinator the last 2 seasons. He joined Dallas in 2022 as a coaching analyst. Schottenheimer has 24 years of experience in coaching in the NFL, but this will be his first job as a head coach. Cowboys went 7-10, missed the playoffs this season, parted ways with Mike McCarthy after 5 seasons. His first order of business is going to be shoring up the defense. Defense was 28th in total defense this past season, worst since 2013. The offense was 6th in points per game, 9th in total yards per game over the past 2 seasons under Brian Schottenheimer. He'll hope to have a healthy Dak Prescott back in the lineup. Missed the final 9 games with a torn hamstring. But the main concern for Brian Schottenheimer is shoring up that defense and getting them back to relevancy in the NFL. Much more ahead coming up here on this breaking news story. Our analyst will join us as we react to Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The Dallas Cowboys are promoting from within, making Brian Schottenheimer their new head coach. He was the offensive coordinator the last 2 seasons, joined Dallas in 2022 as a coaching analyst. Schottenheimer has 24 years of coaching experience in the NFL, but this will be his first head coaching job. Cowboys went 7-10 this past season, missed the playoffs, parted ways with Mike McCarthy after 5 seasons in Dallas. And for more, welcome in CBS Sports NFL writer Garrett Podell, who covers the Cowboys as well for CBS. Garrett, what's your reaction to the news here as the Cowboys promote from within and make Brian Schottenheimer their new head coach?
Well, Hakeem, I can't say I'm surprised. Let's look at the way Jerry Jones has run this Dallas Cowboys franchise over the past year. I mean, after they lost in the postseason to the Green Bay Packers, his version of all-in was spending the fewest amount of money by any team in the NFL in free agency and only signing players on 1-year contracts, almost ran the clock out on Dak Prescott's extension, signing him last day of the lead up to week 1 prior to the kickoff of regular season play in Cleveland against the Browns, waited on CeeDee Lamb's contract, and his version of improving the team mid-season was trading a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo. This is somebody who decided that with the offensive line, they were going to start a rookie at left tackle and center for Dak Prescott, who they just made the highest-paid quarterback in football. And so what all in to Jerry has really meant is making sure that he's not feeling like he's overextended himself financially and putting the Cowboys in a position to have their salary cap looking nice and pretty. So when you look at this move, it doesn't surprise me, because when I spoke to Jerry Jones after their Week 18 game against Washington, he said he thinks everybody, and he was talking about coaches when he said this, performs better with that carrot in front of them, with incentives. So translation, what he was saying is he didn't feel like the coaching position was one that he felt like he needed to pay top dollar for. And in promoting offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer into an NFL head coaching role for the first time in his career, that's someone who can probably afford to not pay top dollar.
What's going to be the reaction from the fan base? Because I imagine it's going to be pretty polarizing. Some will say, oh, this was the safe choice. And then others will say, well, we wanted to make a splash and we need somebody with maybe some more gravitas that has some head coaching experience. How's that going to play out? And I know that's not really going to matter at the end of the day when games are trying to be won.
Yeah, I think the fan base is going to be unanimous in their displeasure with this hire, because when the team parted ways with Mike McCarthy, you would hope that there's going to be an upgrade in the position. Now, what I will say about Brian Schottenheimer, having the chance to speak with him every Monday when coordinators are available at press conferences, he's very polished in all of his answers and is probably one of the more elaborate answers, when it gives the most elaborate answers of any coach on the Cowboys staff the last 2 years. You ask him a question about Rico Dowdle and the way he runs, he might start with a cliche like he's a violent runner, and then he'll go into the nitty-gritty about why a certain play does or doesn't work. So his football IQ is solid. comes from a background of coaching, with his dad being the late Marty Schottenheimer. So this is someone with experience, not a flashy hire, not somebody who was calling the plays in Dallas. That was McCarthy since 2023 after taking the reins back in that department from Kellen Moore following the 2022 season. So what this really is making sure, and Jerry Jones going out of his way to provide quarterback Dak Prescott with schematic continuity, because if we go back to when McCarthy was hired as the head coach in 2020, Kellen Moore remained on the staff as the OC as a holdover from the Jason Garrett staff, because his first year as the play caller was 2019, and Jerry did not want Dak to have to learn new verbiage. And that was something McCarthy admitted both this year and last year, that he wished he would have started from scratch and just brought in his offense right away. And now that Schottenheimer is still there, the Cowboys can have that continuity. And what this kind of parallel leads me to think about next for the Cowboys staff is, will Jason Witten be on it? Because Brian Schottenheimer, in his first time as an NFL head coach, he might be somebody who's a little more amicable to having Jason Witten on his staff. Jason Witten, a future Hall of Fame tight end, but his only coaching experience is at the private high school level in the state of Texas. Now he's led Liberty Christian to back-to-back state titles here in Texas, but that's not exactly the sparkling resume of someone like, we're talking about another tight end in Dan Campbell. He spent over a decade in the NFL as an assistant before getting the bump up to being the Lions head coach in 2021. So to me, the next question is, so what's the staff going to look like? Can he get Mike Zimmer to come back? Zimmer was the defensive coordinator here this past season after last serving as the Vikings head coach for a good chunk amount of time. And he's somebody in Zimmer who has an utmost vote of confidence from his defense. DeMarvion Overshown, the standout second-year linebacker out of Texas, he tweeted, "We want Zim," earlier this offseason. And speaking to Micah Parsons, both at the conclusion of the regular season and locker room cleanout day, he wants Zim back. He feels like this is a Dallas team to which the scheme really took over, and there was a lot more comfort in it the second half of the season, which powered them winning 4 of 5 games after a 5-game losing streak that kept them at least mathematically.
But Garrett, how can you make the argument? But how can you make the argument to keep Zimmer when they were 28th in total defense? Right? I mean, at some point you got to go. Mike wasn't winning for us. Zim wasn't getting it done defensively, and whether you get the players you need to play defense, at some point you need to go in another direction and start over completely fresh, like perhaps a Robert Saleh. What are you hearing about potentially his name coming to Dallas? Because if you're Brian Schottenheimer, right, and this you talk about the fact that we liken. You remember Brandon Staley? He would talk us in circles, right? You mentioned it with Schottenheimer in terms of his answers he gives, and we fell in love with Staley. How did that work out? Not well at the end of the day with the LA Chargers, and now he's come back in the NFL and become a coordinator. But my point here is you need a little bit more